it be? For me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to my continued coverage of the 2020 NFL Scouting Combine. Day number 1 featured the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. I'm getting used to the new format. Usually the tight ends were at the very end. They were the very first group that we saw today. And I actually like that. I'm getting used to the timing of the combine. Normally, when they're ending or just getting started now, they're usually ending the combine, usually first thing in the morning. It'll grow on me, but I thought that this was a pretty interesting group of tight ends because I talked about how the tight end position really not all that rich and deep like it was last year, and that if you watch my combine video and the 10 things I was looking for going into this combine was, hey, who can run at the tight end position? Look, I'll go back and remember, if you want to know who's great, it's all in the tape, all right? It's no secret. The combine shouldn't take your opinion of a guy and make you do a 180. Either you're confirming and checking boxes, or you're telling yourself, hey, I need to go watch this guy, or I need to go back and watch him again if the numbers don't necessarily match up to what you thought you saw on tape. But you shouldn't leave, unless you're on the fence about a guy and the thing you want to see is him run, you shouldn't do a 180, a total 180 on a guy. Like, you can't stand him as a prospect and he goes out, has a great combine, and all of a sudden you love him. That's not what the combine is supposed to do. Usually for me, and I can only speak for myself, it's about checking boxes, and it's about maybe unearthing a gem or two that I didn't really know about, or maybe I need to go back and watch. That's what the combine is for me. And for these tight ends, I needed to know, can you run? Because I can go and assess. Can you catch the football? How's your route running? And most of these guys aren't blockers, and we got to see that. The sled beat them up, okay? That was a drill that I actually was pleased to see because they couldn't move the sled. Fred the sled won the drill, all right? He was bodying dudes. He had at least 7 or 8 bodies, did Fred the sled, after the thing was done. You know, so you can tell a lot of these guys don't have a ton of experience lining up in tight in a traditional format and just going one-on-one, mano-a-mano with the guy in front of them. That's not what they were asked to do in college. It's really not what a lot of these guys are going to do at the next level, per se, because of what the league is turning into. A lot of these guys are being detached from the line of scrimmage anyway. They're moving these guys around. But if you want to be the all-around tight end, if you want to be the next George Kittle, if you want to be Travis Kelce, if you want to be Zach Ertz, you're going to have to block. And a lot of these guys just haven't been asked to do that. But guess what? You can learn how to block. That's not something you have to be able to do coming into the league, which is why a lot of these guys are lucky. That's why I said, just who can run? Who's athletically gifted? Give me something to work with. And so we're going to talk about these tight ends, and then we're going to jump into the receivers and the quarterbacks. But before we do, if you're out there, first and foremost, thank you for joining me. I know it's late, all right? And I know some of you got to go to work tomorrow. Some of you are on the West Coast, so this is not a big thing for you. But if you're on the East Coast like myself, it's pretty damn late. So make sure you like this video and make sure that you subscribe to Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. And if you're out there and you want your comment read, and I'll try to get to as many comments as I can within the time frame, use the hashtag Louis T Live to have your comment read. And again, if you want to skip to the front of the line, super chats are the way to do so. So with that being said, let's jump into Group 1, the tight ends. And I went this year with and I think I like this format, where I go on a 3-star basis, all right? That's my graded scale. 1 star being the lowest and 3 stars being the highest for the performance on the day. Not a lot of people receive 3 stars. I'm pretty hard on my grading scale, but there were some people that I thought performed well. So let's go through the list of guys that I wrote down as guys that flash for me that I'll take a look at if I haven't already on tape. Devin Asiasi out of UCLA, 6'3", 257, ran a 4.73. He got 2 stars from me on the day. I thought he was pretty solid throughout. One of those guys that I'll definitely want to go back and take a look at on tape. Harrison Bryant was a guy that was really ascending up draft boards. His name was starting to ring out at the tight end position as one of the guys that could be the first tight ends off the board. And I thought he did not disappoint. 6'5", 243 pounds out of Florida Atlantic. Ran a 4.73. And just so you understand, 4.73 is plenty fast at the tight end position. I know some of you are enamored with the 4.49 that Albert O ran, and you get to see guys like Evan Ingram run 4.41s and things of that nature. Though that's great. But at the end of the day, the best tight ends in the league, take George Kittle out of the mix because he ran a 4.52, I believe, at the combine. Take George Kittle out of the mix. These guys are running 4.7s. Travis Kelce is a 4.7 guy. Zach Ertz is a 4.7 guy. Generally, these tight ends in the league that are dominant, they're not running 4.5s. They're not even running 4.6s. They're running 4.7s. So a 4.73, perfectly fine. And I thought Harrison Bryant was actually really fluid out on the football field. And I expected that. From what I had seen already, I knew this guy could move. And all he did was confirm what I thought. Thought he had an exceptional day. I gave him 2.5 stars for his performance at the combine today. Thought he was really good. Hunter Bryant is another guy that I think is going to continue to rise. 6'2", 248-pound tight end out of Washington. Ran a 4.74. I thought he was going to run faster, actually. I thought he was going to run in the 4.6s. So I was quite surprised by the 40 time. But again, his movement skills are top notch, and I thought he showed that. I thought he showed the ability to catch the football fluidly. Thought he did some really good things. He got 2 stars from me. Would have been a little bit higher had he ran faster, but the 2 stars I thought was really accurate for what he did on the day. One of the stars of the tight end group, and I had no idea who this was, so I've got some work to do, was Josiah Dubois. Out of Cincinnati, 6'2", 242-pound tight end, ran a 4.72. He received 3 stars from me. To me, he was the star of the tight end group. He popped off the screen at me. I thought this is a guy that every single drill, I thought he owned the drill. He was one of the few guys that actually moved the sled. I thought Josiah Dubois was one of the stars of the tight end group and one of the guys that, to me, really earned himself some recognition, and I think he did some yeoman-like work. And I'm going to do some work on Josiah Dubois because I think this is a guy that could easily ascend in this draft after watching what he was able to do on the field at the combine. 3 stars for me for Josiah Dubois. Bryson Hopkins is a name that I keep hearing a lot of fans out there, a lot of people keep bringing him up. I'm not as high on Bryson Hopkins. I've told you guys this already. 6'4", 245-pound tight end out of Purdue. We all know he's an athlete, and he showed that at the combine. Ran a 4.66. But I wasn't overly impressed. He got 2 stars from me on the day. He was solid, but he didn't knock my socks off. I didn't leave this feeling any different about him. I went in lukewarm on him. I left lukewarm on Bryson Hopkins. He is big. He is well put together, and he is an athlete. Got some super chats, and I'll get to those here in a second. Cole Kmet, Notre Dame tight end. This is my guy. I obviously know him. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. 6'6", 262 pounds. Ran a 4.7 flat. Did everything that I expected him to do. Looked a little stiff in some of the drills, which is what I saw at Notre Dame. But he is an athlete. He is a big guy, and he can move for his size. And so 2 stars, 4.7 flat, 40. It was a solid day for Cole Kmet. Again, he did exactly what I expected him to do. There was a Redskins fan in the chat, I want to say it was yesterday, that brought up the name Dalton Keene out of Virginia Tech. He said, my sleeper tight end is Dalton Keene. And I kind of brushed him off like, oh, okay, cool. Because, everyone's got a sleeper guy, right? Everybody's got a sleeper guy, and they always try to go dig from the deep depths of somewhere we've never heard of and some guy we've never heard of. And so I just brushed him. Oh, okay. Well, Dalton Keene showed up and showed out at the combine. He's now on my radar. 6'4", 253-pound tight end. Ran a 4.71, but it wasn't the 40 that garnered my attention. It was just his overall presence throughout the day. I thought he looked fluid. He caught everything. He looked like a guy that has all of the characteristics and traits of a guy that can really flourish, almost like the role that Foster Moreau had. I've got to go back, check the tape, see what he's all about. But at 6'4", 253, running a 4.71, and moving the way that I saw him move on the field, this is a guy that got 2.5 stars from me for his performance on day 1 of the combine. Really impressed with Dalton Keene. I've got some work to do on him as well. Thought he was really impressive. Albert O was the man that stole the show from a 40 perspective because everyone was buzzing about his 4.49 that he ran, 6'5", 258-pound tight end out of Mizzou. I thought he peaked in his freshman year with Drew Lock. I didn't think he was all that great last year, and I didn't think he was all that great this year with Kelly Bryant. Still put up some good numbers, but for me, he looked a little stiff out on the field. He had some drops. He's going to be fine. Albert O is a pass-catching guy. He was horrible on the sled, but that's not his calling card. It's not what he's going to do at the next level. It's not what he was built to do as of right now. So he had 2 stars from me for his performance at the Combine. But the 4.49 is going to raise some eyebrows and make people go back and watch the tape on Albert O. Stephen Sullivan, LSU, converted wide receiver to tight end, 6'5", 248 pounds, ran a 4.66. He got 1.5 star from me. You can tell this guy is a newbie. He's still learning the nuances of being a tight end. His stances were a little out of whack. You could tell he hasn't done this. So he can't block, and you shouldn't expect him to. And so he's a developmental guy. You know, in 3 years, he could be Darren Waller. But right now, he's not ready. And that's fine. Adam Troutman out of Dayton was a guy that I was anxious to see. 6'5", 255 pounds. I thought he would run faster. I thought he would look more fluid. 4.79. I thought he struggled a little bit today. He got 2 stars from me, but I thought he struggled a bit. You know, I wasn't overly impressed. I'm gonna go back, watch more tape. I'd only watched a couple of games just to get familiar with who he was. I'm gonna go back and dig into him deeply to really get a good feel for what he is, because I wanted him to move the needle for me, and he didn't. So now I've got to go to the tape where all the real evidence is on Adam Troutman out of Dayton. I can tell you this much. After his Combine performance, to me, he's not in the discussion for being the number 1 tight end taken off the board. That's just me. But if the tape says something else, I may have to walk that statement back. But just off of first blush, watching him at the Combine, I don't see how he's the first guy taken off the board at the tight end position. Colby Parkinson was a guy that I thought would be garnering a little bit more attention. I thought his name would bring out a little bit more going into the Combine, and it just really hasn't. I thought he had a good day. You know, 2 stars for him, 6'7", 252-pound tight end, 4.78, 40. I thought he caught the ball well, thought he moved well. He's going to be one of those guys that'll be able to block coming from Stanford. You know, they produce tight ends. They produced some really good ones, and they got a ton of them in the league right now. I think he's going to carry on tradition. I liked what I saw out of Colby Parkinson on the day. And then, obviously, no Thaddeus Moss out of LSU. Initially, Kim Jones reported that he was just taking some time off, but then Ian Rappaport pretty much said, no. This isn't a taking the time off type of situation. He's got a Jones fracture that was discovered in his foot during his physical at the Combine, and so he's out 6 to 8 weeks. I was anxious to see what his 40 time was going to be because I expected him to run slow. So a little disappointed I didn't get to see him run. Someone's going to have to just take him pretty much off blind faith in the tape, and we'll see what happens with him as we move forward in this process. So that's the tight end position. Want to read some of these super chats. There were a couple out here, and I just wanted to knock these out before we moved on to the next position. The first super chat, thank you so much, Barrett Downing, for the super chat. Greatly appreciate the super chat and the support. Barrett Downing writes, in Cali, so we good, and I appreciate you and what you do. Thanks. Hey, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for staying up late. I know you said you're in Cali, so this isn't late for you. This is perfect timing for you, but for us East Coasters, this is definitely late, and I thank you for supporting the movement. Brendan McCloskey, thank you for the super chat, Brendan McCloskey. And Brandon McCloskey writes, Skins should keep their eyes on Jerry Judy, hashtag Bama boy. There's no way the Redskins come away with Jerry Judy. That's a top 15 pick in this draft, and the Redskins aren't spending a top 15 pick on Jerry Judy, so there is no way they're going to come away with him. All right, so now we move on to group number 2. Group 1, if you're keeping score at home for the tight ends and, the wide receivers and quarterbacks, but it's group 2 overall in the Combine. And this, to me, was a really quality group. This was the star-studded quarterback group here. All the big names were in this group. Burrow would have been throwing in this group. You had Easton, Fromm, Herbert, and Hertz all in this group to me. And most of them threw the football extremely well. I was actually really pleased with the way these guys let it rip at the quarterback position. I thought they really had some strong performances. And let's get into the quarterbacks, and then we'll get into the receivers. So Joe Burrow, no participation. You already knew that going into it. But Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hertz all performed at the Combine. Jacob Eason, will start with him. Washington quarterback, 6'6", 231 pounds, 4'9", 40. Again, I really don't care about the 40 as much. If you are a guy that uses your legs, then the 40 comes into play. But if you're more of a pocket passer, I'd like you to be mobile enough to make guys miss. We killed Dwayne Haskins for the lack of mobility, ran a 5 flat last year at the Combine, and then he gets to the league, sheds some pounds, and all of a sudden this guy's moving around. So I don't put too much stock into the 40. I just need you to be mobile enough. Jacob Eason is mobile enough, all right? But 62 mile an hour spin rate on the football, ridiculous. The strongest arm of any of the quarterbacks throwing at the Combine. And 2.5 stars for Jacob Eason, man. I thought he let it rip. There were some inconsistencies on some of the underneath throws, but when they got to the deep throws, and you heard my man from the morning show, I forget his name, but he kept talking about wait till Eason throws the deep ball. You're going to be wild. And I was like, man, you overhyping him. And we got to the deep balls, and he did not disappoint. There were a couple of throws on the corner routes and especially the go balls, the 9 routes, where he just let it rip, and it was right on the money. I thought Jacob Eason threw it well. And the thing that you knew he was going to do, he did that. He went out and showcased the arm strength, and he was somewhat accurate with it. 2.5 stars. Sorry about that. I think we had a little bit of disconnection there. Hopefully everything is good now. But I was saying about Jake Fromm, I thought DJ Daniel Jeremiah said it best. He's not for everyone. So he was solid. He ran a 5 flat. I kind of knew that was coming. You see it on tape. I know what he is as a quarterback. I've said that about him. He got 2 stars from me. The lack of arm strength is apparent. He's gonna have to throw with timing and he's going to have to throw with timing and anticipation. And that's fine. That's what he is. That's what he's been at Georgia. But being showcased with a bunch of guys that could let it rip, like a Herbert, like Hertz, and like Easton, it was tough to watch him kind of struggle in that department throughout the course of the day. But nonetheless, I know who Jake Fromm is and what he's capable of in this league. But 2 stars for him on the day. Justin Herbert, I thought, really asserted himself well. Oregon quarterback, 6'6", 236 pounds, ran a 4.69, so he showcased some of the athleticism at that size. 60 mile an hour spin rate, so he can absolutely let it rip. We know the arm is big and live. And 2.5 stars for me. He had the most beautiful throws of the day on his set of corner routes that he threw to the left side of the football field. You can't throw the corner routes any better than that. He just threw some absolute dimes going to his left. I thought that he let it go a couple of times, and it just was a thing of beauty. He's just got to trust in his abilities. That's what he's got to do. Sometimes you can catch him thinking too damn much. If he just goes out and allows his natural God-given talents and abilities to showcase themselves, he could be a problem at the next level, because they don't make him 6'6", 230 plus with, a 4'7", 40 kind of athleticism and that kind of build with that kind of arm talent. Those don't grow on trees. He's just got to go out and ball, man. But I thought he showed well. 2.5 stars. I thought he was really good on the evening. And another guy that really was impressive, Jalen Hertz, man. Look, I know there are some inconsistencies in his game. There's a lot of times where he wants to wait till a guy gets open. There isn't a lot of timing and anticipation in what he does. But man, can this guy throw it, and man, is this guy athletically gifted. And I love the leadership qualities. We all know the story about what he did at Alabama, sticking around, helping them win a national championship. 6'1", 222 pounds out of Oklahoma, ran a 4.59, so that kind of speed is going to do well for him at the next level. 54-mile-an-hour spin rate, which means he can let it rip, and I thought he threw it really well, man. I was thoroughly impressed, and I don't know why I was overly impressed, because I knew he was capable of this, but to see him actually go out and do it, man, was that impressive or what? 2.5 stars on the day for Jalen Hertz. I thought he was accurate in the short game. I thought he was accurate in the deep game. I thought he was accurate in the intermediate game. I thought Jalen Hertz really showed well at the combine. And for all of those people out there talking about this guy switching positions or this, that, and the third, this is a guy that can play the quarterback position. And I think he is showing people that. And I think he took steps towards that here at the combine. So let's get to some more super chats, and then we'll get to the receivers. I got one here from Brandon McCloskey. Double up, for Brandon McCloskey, as he says, double up. Appreciate the super chat, Brandon. Greatly appreciate the super chat. And Brendan writes, double up. He says, do you think CeeDee Lamb could fall to the 3rd round? Keep up the good work, Louis. Love your videos. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. CeeDee Lamb isn't even falling to the 20s, okay? CeeDee Lamb will be gone, long gone, by probably number 15. You know, and it all kind of depends on how many quarterbacks get taken, how many offensive linemen come off the board. But once those receivers start going, and CD could be the first one, you know, 3rd round, he might be the first one off the board, let alone, you know, getting to 15 or so. I can tell you this much. We'll get to Henry Ruggs in a little bit. I just don't want that guy in the division. You know, whatever happens, I don't want the Eagles taking Henry Ruggs. I almost would prefer them to take CeeDee Lamb. I don't want to see that kind of speed in the division. Now, can he stay healthy? I don't know. But I don't want to see that kind of speed in the division, to be honest with you. But speaking of receivers, let's get to the receivers that were in Group 2 with those quarterbacks. Brandon Ayuk from ASU, 6 feet, 205 pounds, ran a 4.5 flat, 40-inch vert. He was solid. He didn't knock my socks off. I actually expected more from Brandon Ayuk, and I didn't get it. There were some drops. He looked a little stiff. He looked like a guy that was just thinking too much. Instead of just going out and letting his natural abilities display themselves, I think he was uptight, because I know this guy is talented and can do more than what he did. And Daniel Jeremiah said it on the 40, and I thought it just kind of bled into the rest of his field drills as well. Doesn't take away from the talent that is Brandon Ayuk, but it was not one of his better performances. Devin Duvernay out of Texas, the shifty, speedy slot receiver, 5'10", 200 pounds, showcased that speed, 4.39, 2 stars on the day. He did everything that I expected him to do. He looks the part of a problem in the slot at the next level, and I think he showcased that at the combine. The guy that stole the show at the receiver position, and I think this goes for all groups, and not just this group, but the next group as well, was Chase Claypool. And remember, I went into the combine. Remember, I said, who's going to run fast at the tight end position? And I said, hey, Claypool is making a switch to tight end. You know, they want to see him in the tight end drills. Well, Chase Claypool was like, to hell with that. I'm not a tight end. And he went out and proved to everyone, because this is a Notre Dame guy, so I know Chase Claypool. I watched him at Notre Dame. Never did I see 4.42 speed from him. It's like Notre Dame hides these guys. It's almost like Notre Dame wide receivers are the Kentucky basketball players of college football. And when I say that, like, we didn't know that the Brow, you know, Anthony Davis, was as skillful and talented as he was when he was at Kentucky. We didn't know he could handle the rock and step out to, 25 feet and shoot the 3 and shoot the mid-range. We didn't know he could do any of that, because Calipari didn't let him do any of that stuff at Kentucky. We didn't know Devin Booker had the ability to drop 60 in a game, because he didn't get to do that at Kentucky. We don't ever know how good these Kentucky basketball players are, because we don't get to see their full talents on display in Calipari's offense. So I kind of feel the same way now about Notre Dame wide receivers. I didn't know that Miles Boykin was going to go and run a 4.45 last year at the combine, or 4.42 or whatever it was. I didn't know Chase Claypool, because you didn't see that from those guys at Notre Dame. Well, Chase Claypool went and lit it up at 6'4", 238 pounds. He jumped a 40.5-inch vert, and he ran a 4.42 40. And not to mention, caught just about every damn thing on the day. I was so impressed. Just like I was last year with Miles Boykin. I was so impressed with Chase Claypool. He exceeded my expectations. When I told you Cole Kmet pretty much did what I expected him to do, I thought I was going to get the same thing from Chase Claypool, and he blew the top off of the combine. I'm really happy for him. Want to see where this goes and see if teams still have that mindset of making this guy a tight end, or if they're saying to themselves, hey, we could have a Calvin Johnson type of guy. I'm not trying to compare him to Calvin Johnson, but he's got that kind of size. And you heard what they said. In the modern era of the combine, since 2003, I believe they said, there's only been one other wide receiver that's been north of 6'4", and over 230 pounds that has run as fast as Chase Claypool did, and that was Calvin Johnson. So I thought he was tremendous. 3 stars on the day. He was the star of the show. Tyree Cleveland out of Florida, speedy wide receiver, 6'2", 209 pounds, ran a 4.46. I thought he was actually pretty good. He exceeded my expectations. Not a lot of production for him at Florida. When you watch him, you can tell he can run, but he didn't have a lot of big plays that matched up with the speed that he has. And I thought he actually caught the football really well. He's one of those guys that might be a better pro than he was a college player. One of the guys that I am intrigued by, and that I told myself after the Senior Bowl that I needed to do more work on, was Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty. Ran a 4.6. This is a guy that every time I see him, he threw up 22, 25 reps, something crazy on the bench of 225. He's big at 6'4". He's physical. I got to see more of this guy, man. I got some work to do on this guy because there's something here. Anyway, 2 stars for him on the day. But this guy, there's something to him. KJ Hill out of Ohio State, 6 feet, 196 pounds. Ran a 4.6 flat. I told you guys, the Redskins fans were like, yo, what about KJ Hill? I'm like, KJ Hill's cool, but he's not fast. I told you guys that yesterday. I said, I've watched plenty of Ohio State. I've watched KJ Hill on tape. I'm telling you, he's not going to run fast. I know what he is. He's a hell of a route runner. He's a technician. He's going to separate with his route running ability, but he's not running by anybody. And I told you guys, I said, at Ohio State, on 3rd and 7, KJ Hill's going to break a guy off and get you 8, get you 9. All right. He's the guy you go to. It's the reason why he's got the most receptions in Ohio State history, because that's who he is. He's a high volume guy, but he's not going to stretch the field vertically. That was Terry McLaurin, and that's Olave. And some of these other guys. It wasn't him. And so this 4.6 pretty much staked that claim. But man, are his hands A1. They're official. His gauntlet drill might have been the best I saw all day long. Justin Jefferson, to me, was the co-leader in the clubhouse at the receiver position in either group. 6'1", 202-pound wide receiver out of LSU. I knew he was fast. I didn't know how fast. I was putting him in the high, 4.4s, like 4.48, 4.49, somewhere in there. I thought he was going to be closer to 4.5 than 4.4. For him to come out and run a 4.43, though, and catch it the way that he did, man, was he impressive. Someone's going to get a really good football player, Justin Jefferson. When you watch the tape, he just play after play after play, big play after big play after big play. It was Justin Jefferson, man. It was Justin Jefferson. So he's going to be good. I was so blown away by his combine performance. 3 stars on the day for him. Him and Chase Claypool, to me, were the 2 best receivers in terms of their performance at the combine in day number 1. John Hightower out of Boise, got some work to do on him. I'm not going to lie to you. I had no idea who he was. 6'1", 199, but he ran a 4.43. He caught damn near everything that came his way. Even made a stretching catch on a dig route that was out in front of him. I just thought he looked really good. 2.5 stars for John Hightower. I got some work to do. Daniel Jeremiah tells me he's explosive. I got to go watch this guy because I was really impressed with what I saw. No KJ Handler in this group. He would have been here, but hamstring injury kept him out. The speedy wide receiver out of Penn State. So that's another guy that we'll definitely see come off the board sooner rather than later. And no T. Higgins. He would have also been in that group. He also is dealing with an injury, was not able to perform. So we'll take a look at the super chat and then read read the super chat that I have gotten, and then we'll move on to the next group. DMV fan 123 says, first of all, thank you for the super chat, DMV 123. All right, DMV fan 123, thank you once again. He writes, not gonna kill a team for taking Herbert round 1. I don't think you can. You know, the talent is definitely there. There's a lot with him, and we're gonna talk about all of the quarterbacks this coming Thursday. We're going to start draft 101 series live this week, and we start with the quarterbacks, and I'm going to have a lot of things to say about a lot of guys. I think I watched about 12 quarterbacks that I felt like were draftable, and Herbert's definitely going to be one of those guys. He's one of the guys that will break down in the Draft 101 Prospect Series, so I expect Herbert to come off the board in the first round, and you can't blame a team for taking him in the first round. Whoa. My man Ricky L. Wow. Okay. Rick, big ups for the super chat, bruh. Wow. Appreciate the contribution, my man. Whew, kind of blew me away there, man. Really appreciate the super chat, Ricky L. And he says, super chat just for my bro Lou because he is the best at this. Dollar amount is for Kobe. Hey, man, I greatly appreciate the super chat, Ricky L, man. Really appreciate you coming through for the kid like that, man. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. JP, what's going on, JP? I know you were upset yesterday because you couldn't get through. Hey, the super chats were lit, man. I'm sorry about that. But JP says, first and foremost, thank you so much, JP, for the super chat. Thank you for the blessing. Good looking out. Once again, thank you, Ricky L, for that massive super chat. Greatly appreciated. But thank you as well, JP, for your super chat. JP writes, my first super chat. I have a feeling someone is going to come up into the top 10 for Henry Ruggs. And plus, I heard the Cardinals might take Judy at 8. This is the thing. If the Cardinals are able to get themselves a tackle, I know they re-signed DJ Humphries, and I think they want to solidify the tackle position because they got to protect Kyler Murray. He was running for his life last year. They can't have that. In order for that offense to operate the way that they want it to, they need two things. They need to be able to protect Kyler Murray and give him the time to survey the field and get rid of the football. They also need an elite dynamic playmaker. They would like to make sure they come away with at least one of those two items at number 8. If they can get a guy in free agency that they trust, at the tackle position, I think you'll see them go after Judy at number 8. Judy or CeeDee Lamb, whichever one. And you know, Murray's going to be pushing for CeeDee Lamb because that's his guy. I can tell you this much. One of those guys is going in the top 10. I can feel it right now. You say it could be Ruggs. You said it could be Judy. And also throw CeeDee Lamb in that mix as well. Do not discount what he is capable of either. I could see the Cardinals being the first team to snatch a receiver off the board at 8. And it wouldn't shock me if it's CeeDee Lamb because of his connection with Kyler Murray. It wouldn't shock me if it's Jerry Judy or Henry Ruggs because of what they bring to the table with the speed element. So I agree with you, and I greatly appreciate your contribution, JP. Thank you so much. Once again, Ricky L., thank you for your super chat once again. So, with that being said, let's get to group number 3. For those of you scoring at home, it was the actual second group of the quarterbacks and wide receivers, but overall, it was the third group of the combine. And we start with the quarterbacks in that group. You had Jordan Love. This was less of a star-studded group, but it was still some guys that I value in this draft. Tua Tagovailoa would have been with this group of quarterbacks. Obviously, he did not perform at the combine, but Jordan Love, Utah State quarterback, a guy that I've been telling you about since last year. Remember, he jumped on my radar last year. All right, when I was watching some of the Utah State prospects, one of the guys that was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, I want to say in the 5th or 6th round at the running back position. And I'm seeing Jordan Love, and I'm like, who in the hell is this guy? And when is he coming out? And I don't like looking at minors, all right? But I couldn't help myself. I was like, man, this guy here has first-round quarterback written all over him. And I told you guys about him last year. I continue to bang and beat the drum for him this year, even though this was a down year from him statistically. But you heard all of the different things that were against him this year. New coaching staff, 9 starters left. It's the same thing, and that's why I kind of discounted it with Josh Allen in his last year at Wyoming. It's the same thing that happened to Josh Allen at Wyoming. Lost a bunch of guys from the year previous. I know the Redskins snatched his center. His tight end, Jacob Hollister, was in the league. One of his receivers, his running back, Hill, all of those guys left him. And so he had to fend for himself that next year, and it wasn't the same. Same thing with Jordan Love. He had to fend for himself. And so he went out, he started pressing, same thing Josh Allen did at Wyoming. And so you saw the numbers take a dip. But that doesn't take away from the talent that is Jordan Love. And I told you guys, future first-round pick. You're hearing the buzz, and you got people talking about him climbing into the top 10. I won't go that far, but I'm going to tell you right now, you know what quarterbacks do in the draft. Much like the offensive linemen, tackles in particular, they move up, not back in the draft. Expect Jordan Love to be a guy that comes off the board in the first round. I don't think he's going to be top 10 like Ian Rappaport was saying tonight, but expect Jordan Love to climb up. 6'4", 224-pound quarterback out of Utah State. Ran a 4.65. The athleticism is off the charts. You see that when you watch him on tape. You know the arm talent is there. His ability to throw off schedule. All of the things you're looking for as a playmaker at the next level, Jordan Love possesses, which is what caught my eye last year. 2.5 stars for his performance at the Combine. I thought he was exceptional and did some really good things. There were a few misses there. Some issues with him kind of, not having the timing with the receiver and trying to be a little too perfect. But when he let it rip, there were some really good throws, and you could see the arm is live and the athleticism. He showcased that during his 40. So really impressed with what Jordan Love put forth on the evening. Cole Mcdonald is a guy that I watched on tape, and he's a mixed bag. I'm telling you right now. We'll talk more about him when we talk about the quarterbacks on Thursday night. But quarterback out of Hawaii, 6'3", 215, played in the run and shoot offense, so a ton of throws. He threw it over 500 times this year. Ran a 4.5, 4.40. I knew he was going to test well athletically when you watch him on tape. He actually ran faster than I thought he was going to run. I did not think he was going to run that fast, but I thought he threw the football extremely poor. I mean, really disappointed because I wrote down in my notes watching him on tape, the throwing motion is a little weird. It's over the top, sort of like Byron Leftwich. Reminds me somewhat of Chad Pennington and Aaron Brooks, for those of you who remember that far back with a couple of those guys. Just over the top. It's kind of elongated, but it gets there. You know what I mean? But he made a lot of mistakes. We'll get into him, but I thought he would throw it better. He just looked uncomfortable. He looked like a guy that was pressing, that felt the pressure of other guys around him with liver arms and better mechanics. And he just didn't look comfortable out there. And I just, 1 star for him. Really disappointed in his performance. And he's actually a guy that I like and think is a draftable quarterback. And I'm not saying he won't be drafted after this performance, but he did not look comfortable out on the field at the Combine. I was really disappointed in Cole Mcdonald's performance. A guy that I was not disappointed in, but if you watch him on tape, he's an enigma. All right. He is Jay Cutler 2.0. That is the comp I have for him. Everything looks the part of a big-time NFL quarterback. Steven Montes out of Colorado, 6'4", 230 pounds, 4.58 40. He threw it well, man. He is the biggest enigma in the quarterback position this year. By far and away, my biggest enigma. I struggle with Steven Montes because I've been watching him for about 2 years at Colorado, and I've been waiting for that one season where I go, there it is. There it is with him. We're going to talk more about him on Thursday, but he just is so damn infuriating and frustrating. But he was good on Thursday night. He was really good. 2.5 stars for him. He threw it well, man. And the arm talent is apparent. I mean, you throw him right up there with the Jacob Easons and the oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. The Justin Herberts of the world in this draft with the big arms. You throw him right in that mix. This guy can spin it, man. And you saw it. So 2.5 stars. Showed the athleticism running a 4.58. We're going to talk more about Steven Montes. And one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft that not a lot of people talk about, I think he's going to get drafted, is James Morgan out of FIU. You watch this guy, and you just can't help but think this is a guy that belongs in the league. And he's 6'4", he's 229, ran a 4.92, 2 stars on the day. I actually was impressed with James Morgan, man. I was. I thought he did some really good things. The tape backs that up. He had a really good performance reportedly at the East-West game. James Morgan is a guy that I am intrigued by. I like him a lot. And he didn't do anything at the combine to dissuade me. I like James Morgan a lot. So I thought he had a really solid day. So those are your quarterbacks, Group 3. We'll get to the receivers, but I want to get to some of these super chats before we move on. This super chat is from Blackskin HTTR. Thank you for the super chat, Blackskin HTTR. And Blackskin writes, "This isn't Redskins talk. What the F, man? Nah, just joking. What's good, bro? Nothing much. Talking this draft, man. You know how it is. We talk this draft. It's that time of the year." JP with another super chat. Double up. For my man JP. Appreciate the super chat. JP, appreciate the super chat. My man JP writes, "The Dolphins or Chargers will most likely trade with the Lions to come up and get Tua at 3. But don't count out Herbert to Miami at 5 either." That's a good observation, because if you're the Dolphins and you don't want to give up draft capital and you don't necessarily believe in Tua as much as you do Herbert, you just stay at 5 and one of these quarterbacks will fall to you at 5. But here's the thing. If you believe in Tua and you're the Dolphins, you're going to have to come up to get him. And they've got the perfect situation for Tua to sit, because Tua's already said, I would really like to sit out next year, heal up fully, and learn. And Miami, to me, has the perfect environment for that. If they bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I assume they're going to do, and they put that team around Fitzpatrick like they did last year, Fitzpatrick has shown that he can play a full season, win you some ball games, and also Tua can learn from him. And then the year after that, 2021, Tua hits the ground running and you don't look back. I think it's the perfect situation for him in Miami, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see which team decides to, because someone's coming up to number 3 for Tua. I'm all but assured of that. Tua's not getting past 3, I believe. The Lions are going to trade out of that pick. They've already said business is open. They're open for business, I should say, at number 3, and I fully expect them to allow someone to come up and get Tua Tagovailoa. So I wonder who it's going to be. And like you said, could be the Dolphins, could be the Chargers, could be the Carolina Panthers. Don't discount them either. We'll see what happens, but I think you're absolutely right. Someone's going to come up to get Tua at number 3. Brendan McCloskey tripling up. Tripling up. I see you, Brendan McCloskey. Greatly appreciate your contribution and your super chat. Brendan writes, "Do you think the Skins are really considering Tua, or is it a part of a smoke screen? Wish I could give more. Keep up the great work, Louie. You've given plenty. All right. Thank you so much for your contributions. And no, I don't think the Redskins are seriously considering taking Tua. It's not necessarily a smoke screen as much as it is them just doing their due diligence. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the future holds. You know, maybe you get a chance to get Tua down the road. You know what I mean? In a trade or something like that. You just never know, and you just want to do your homework on these guys. You want to know how these guys think, how they're wired, and what they bring to the table. And as someone else said, you know, knowing the value of these players also helps you in trade discussions. when a team approaches you about trading for a particular player, because you've done your homework, you know that this is the type of value that this player holds. Now you know what your asking price can be. So I don't expect the Redskins to do anything at the quarterback position, but they're doing their due diligence, and that's all you can ask them to do. That's what they're supposed to do. So we go from quarterbacks. Once again, thank you all for your super chats. Ricky L, thank you for that massive super chat. Brandon McCloskey, thank you for tripling up. JP, thank you for doubling up. Blackskin HTTR, thank you for the super chat. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody else. DMV fan 123, thank you for your super chat. And Barrett Downing, thank you for kicking the night off with the super chat. So thank you all for your super chats as we get to the last group of players to hit the field day one of the combine, and that was the second group of wide receivers. And this was the more star-studded group of receivers. You had Jerry Judy in this mix. You had CeeDee Lamb in this mix. You had Henry Ruggs III in this mix. Leviticus Chenault Jr. in this mix. Tyler Johnson in this mix. Denzel Mims in this mix. James Prochet in this mix. This receiver crop is loaded. All right. Jaylen Rhaegar in this mix. Like, this was the group of receivers right here. And I actually wasn't blown away. You know what? I felt like the first group of receivers and quarterbacks, I thought they were sharper. I thought they were more fluid. I thought they were more consistent, I think is the best word to use. Now, the better talent lies here, okay? Don't confuse what I'm saying with what I'm telling you and how I feel. All right, what I'm telling you is the more consistent performance came from the first crop of quarterbacks and wide receivers. What I'm telling you is that these are the more talented guys, though. Don't get it twisted. But nonetheless, Jerry Judy out of Alabama, 6'1", 193. I remember one of the very first thing I was looking for on my top 10 things I was looking for in the combine was Jerry Judy and CeeDee Lamb. What were they going to run? Well, Jerry Judy checked the box off. 4.46, right around what I thought he was going to do. 3 stars for him on the day. Thought he caught the football well. Thought he did everything I needed to see from him. And think he's got a shot to be the number 1 receiver off the board. CeeDee Lamb, same deal. 6'2", 198. Did exactly what I thought he was going to do. Remember, I told you 4.49 to 4.52. He's going to be somewhere in that range. Ran a 4.51. Totally expected that. Doesn't change the way I feel about him. 3 stars on the day. Had a great acrobatic catch on the fade route late in the evening to wrap things up. CeeDee Lamb looks the part and has a legitimate shot of being the number 1 receiver off the board. Jajuan Johnson is interesting and funny because he's the Oregon wide receiver, 6'4", 230 pounds, that DJ and Charles Davis joked about. DJ said, "Hey, Charles, remember I told you at the Senior Bowl that Jajuan Johnson is a tight end. He just doesn't know it yet." And when you look at him, man, is he cut. He's chiseled. He looks the part of a guy that could be making that conversion to tight end. But Jajuan, much like Chase Claypool, said not so fast. He ran a 4.59. All right, and at that size, at 6'4", 230, that is not bad. Not bad at all. And so 2 stars for him on the day. I thought he did some really good things. I'm going to be tracking him to see what he's about. I'm going to go watch some tape on him because I haven't watched enough on him. Even watching Justin Herbert, he didn't pop for me. So I'm going to go back and watch Jajuan Johnson and see what he's all about. Denzel Mims out of Baylor, 6'3", 207 pounds. He absolutely flew during the 40, ran a 4.39, which knocked my socks off. I didn't think he was going to run that damn fast. I knew he was going to run. I thought he was going to run like a 4.47, 4.46. He ran a 4.39. I didn't see sub 4.4 coming. But a little disappointed with his hands on the day. And it's crazy because this is a guy that's making some ridiculous catches when you watch the tape. I think he was just pressing. But I saw multiple bobbles from him, some double catches. I saw a drop or two. He wasn't comfortable out there catching the football. He was all over the place on the gauntlet drill. He definitely didn't have a banner day, but the 4.39 makes up for some of that, and so he still came away with 2 stars on the evening for me. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6'2", 212-pound wide receiver out of Michigan, ran a 4.48. I was expecting him to run faster after hearing he jumped a 44.5-inch vert. So I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy might run a 4.4 flat. And the first time he ran was like a 4.52, and I'm like, So it didn't necessarily translate right away, but the 4.48 is more in line with that 44.5-inch vert. Either way, thought he was solid on the day. And every time I watch Donovan Peoples-Jones, I always come away saying, oh, he's solid. You know, he didn't move the needle for me. He was 2 stars on the day. Michael Pittman Jr., 6'4", 223-pound wide receiver out of USC, ran a 4.52, which is a really good time for him because he's a big body receiver that can go up and get the football. 2 stars in the afternoon or evening. Had no problems with what he put forth, and I thought that 4.52 was actually a really good time for him. Jaylen Rhaegar, 5'11", 206-pound TCU wide receiver, ran a 4.47. I was actually kind of disappointed in his performance today. He got 2 stars out of me, but the 4.47 we thought would be a little bit faster, and that's still fast, plenty fast. But when you're expecting a guy to run sub 4.4 to get a 4.47, and one of his 40 times was a 4.5, a little disappointing there. Then there were some drops. There was some inconsistencies with his hands, and that's not what you see on tape from him necessarily. Although with Rhaegar there were drop concerns. All right, so I take that back. He was one of the guys that had some concerns with his hands, and he didn't do anything to dispel that notion and put it to bed. So a little lukewarm on him. He's not growing on me. So it was not one of his final performances. I can tell you that much. Henry Ruggs III, incomplete after running his 40s. I think he looked like he either did something to his hamstring or his quad. Did not participate on the on-field drills. 5'11", 188, but he ran a 4.27 40. That's all you need to know. All right. Leviticus Chenault, he got an incomplete from me on the day as well. Didn't see too much of him. He ran a 40, and then I don't know if he disappeared or what, but 6'1", 227 pounds, ran a 4.59. I thought he would run a little faster than that, but in any event, incomplete for him. Still a hell of a football player. Can tell you that much. Tyler Johnson is a 6'2" wide receiver out of Minnesota. No 40 for him. He got an incomplete grade. And James Prochet, no 40 from him. He got an incomplete grade, although I will say he's got natural hands. He caught everything at the combine, and so he's another guy to watch out for. I don't know why the hell I found myself watching a couple of SMU games during the course of the regular season. SMU was actually ranked pretty highly throughout the course of the year. They kind of faltered down the stretch, but he was one of those guys that was making big-time plays for them at SMU. He's a guy to watch out for in this draft as well. There's so many receivers in this draft. You just throw a guy like James Prochet into the mix. So that is day one of the combine. It was really, really a good day, you know, and looking forward to tomorrow, where we'll see the offensive line first and then the running backs. This is a deep group of running backs, I believe. And I think there are some guys that can stake their claim to become, first round picks with tremendous performances. DeAndre Swift right now, to me, is right now ahead of the Wisconsin back Jonathan Taylor. But if Taylor goes out and does what I told you people are saying he could do, he could vault himself into the first round and maybe even over a guy like DeAndre Swift. We'll see what happens. But nonetheless, got a super chat that will close out the show from Hype Dude. Hype Dude, appreciate the super chat, man. Really appreciate the super chat. Hype Dude says, appreciate the combine cover, Lou. HTTR. Appreciate you, Hype Dude. Thank you and everyone else who joined me on this stream and commented and super chatted. I can't thank you guys enough. Again, I know for some of you on the East Coast, it's late, but you still were able to come and kick it with your man T, and I appreciate that. So Thank you so much for the support. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. And remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. We'll be back again tomorrow. We're going to break this entire combine down, and then we're going to jump into these prospects. So don't you go anywhere. Louis T Network has you covered as we continue our march to the NFL Draft. I'm your man Louis T, signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. See you tomorrow for day 2 of the NFL Scouting Combine.
Louis T Network.